Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to an episode of Canucks Conversation brought to you by Bet365. My name is Dick Boudreaume. I'm joined by Harman Dial. We've got a lot to talk about. It's actually a busy edition of Canucks Conversation. We might go long today. After going short yesterday, we might go long today. It is a Canucks game day, but we're not going to talk too much about the game against Colorado. I do want to talk about the watch party in a hot second here, but I do want to start by saying, Harman, the news last night, Minnesota Wild. Did you catch any of the game? A 7-6 win for the Minnesota Wild, just back and forth, nonstop action. Did you catch any of the game?
No, I wasn't able to.
It was also 8-7. So yeah, neither did I. The Wild and Sharks just went back and forth. I was following along. It was unbelievable. This game, just so back and forth. Neither goalie wanting to make a save. No disrespect to Marc-Andre Fleury, who I hope, and not to go off on a tangent here, but I really hope the Canucks come out and shake Marc-Andre Fleury's hand after his final game at Rogers Arena. I want to see that. That might be the Flowers' final regular season game. Let him go out on top. I'd love to see it. So I'm getting sidetracked, but the point being, the Minnesota Wild won, which means the Canucks' slim playoff hopes, we knew they were slim, are officially dead. Canucks have been officially eliminated from playoff contention. Who could have seen this coming?
Yeah, definitely not you. How long did it take you to stop reading the money puck odds?
Basically until last night.
Yeah, it went on for too long. But hey, it was I'm at least glad that the Furies come back when they had over the Stars. It helped the narrative that they keep their slim playoff hopes alive. That still sounded a lot more cool than they did that when they're officially mathematically eliminated already. So I mean, little bit of an extra bonus on that front. But look, we knew this was inevitable. The big games that they dropped on that last road trip they were on, the 5 or 6 gamer, that essentially sealed their fate, and it was only a matter of time before this was going to happen.
And it happened. It happened. Anything else you want to say about the Minnesota Wild versus San Jose Sharks game? People in the chat are saying, where's this one? Yeah, Nello, regular listener of the show, said Celebrini's a beast. Can't wait for him to become a UFA. What sucks is all the Pacific teams are going to be better next year. I have a theory, Harm. I'm putting a stop to this idea that, the Pacific teams are all going to get better. It feels like we've been saying that for about 2 or 3 years now. I'm not saying it anymore. I have no belief that the Sharks or the Ducks are going to be better next year.
Sharks have a long ways to go. No doubt about it. I mean, look at that blue line, especially now that they've traded Jake Wallman. I actually want to, out of curiosity, I haven't checked in a couple weeks what their D pairs look like right now. Because they've got some pieces up front, right? With Celebrini, with Will Smith, with Toffoli, with Eklund. Like, they've got a decent forward core at the top of their lineup. But yeah, I mean, look at their blue line. Mario Ferraro, Timothy Liljegren, Lucas Carlson, Henry Thrun, the corpse of Mark-Edward Vlasic, and Jack Thompson. Half of these guys sound like EA generated names. So no, the Sharks aren't taking a step anytime soon. The Ducks, though, I still think they're 2 years away from being actually playoff competitive. But I mean, they've at least escaped that territory of being a 60-point team. I think they're on pace to improve by around 20 points in the standings. Now, a lot of that simply comes down to goaltending, which can be volatile year over year, even though I believe that Dostal is the real deal. So we'll see about that. But I'd say the Ducks have a much higher chance of actually taking a step next year, just because they've also got so many of their young core players kind of stagnated this year. But now McTavish is having a strong second half, and I still look at Leo Carlson as a player with franchise center potential. So if even a couple of those guys pop, that could really help them take a step.
People in the chat pointing out, if the Sharks get another first overall pick, that could help them take a step. We got a super chat here. This one's from Sky Training Canuck Alfred, who said the duration of that hope for playoff contention felt like the Price is Right's yodeling guy. Yodely guy climbing up the mountain, falling off the edge in the end. Jacob, Harmon, either of you watch The Price is Right? Because I watch it with my no. My
No.
no.
I was a huge Price is Right guy back when I was like younger.
What is this yodely guy thing?
You don't know the yodely? Okay,
No.
I will get you the yodely guy. Give me like 2 minutes. I'm getting the yodely guy on the show.
And we thank Skytrain Canuck there for the super chat. And our super chats are all in support, if you haven't heard already, of the BC Mental Health Foundation. You want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show? Hit us with the super chat. Proceeds from our super chat will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Harm, did you say you hadn't watched The Price is Right?
No.
Okay. My no-no's a big Price is Right guy. Watch Price is Right. Watches it a lot. Loves Price is Right.
I watched a lot of Deal or No Deal.
Oh, Deal or No Deal was... You know what? I'll say this. Here's, and this isn't up for debate, Jeopardy when you get older. Like, I watched Jeopardy as a kid and never really... Like, yeah. I didn't like not being able to answer anything. But then that was a really cool moment for me, was like starting to be able to answer the majority of the Jeopardy questions that get asked. You know, you take a grade 12 English class, you can do most of those things, most of those questions. What is this?
This is the Price is Right yodel guy.
How this isn't the Drew Carey Price is Right.
No, this is old. This is Bob Barker Price is Right. But this game has existed forever. For those on the podcast.
What is the object of the game?
And there he goes.
What's the object of the game? What was that woman supposed to do?
So the way that it works is you had to do a pricing game, right? So, I think the price of these baby wipes are $8.
Yeah.
And however far apart you are from the actual price is how many spots the yodel guy goes over. So if once you get to like whatever it is, $30 away from the actual prices, you pop over the edge and you lose the game.
So they don't play that anymore. That's why
they still play it. It's
what?
I don't know if it's common like all the time anymore, but it's one of the classics. Like I'd say Plinko number 1, and then the yodel game Cliffhangers, I think is what it's called, is number 2.
Okay. All right. I said busy show. Let's stay on track today. And I started talking about Price is Right. It gets me. Although I was going to say Jeopardy's number 1 for me as an adult, but like as a kid, Deal or No Deal was my absolute favorite. Didn't love Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune, I know it's super popular. Just never really my cup of tea.
I like it.
It's a fine show. It's fine. But I'm going Jeopardy number 1, Deal or No Deal, Price is Right.
And I'm surprised you as a writer don't like Wheel of Fortune. It's all about words and phrases and
yeah, I don't know. Some of those phrases aren't really phrases.
I agree with you.
Oh, Family Feud. Sorry, Family Feud's number 1.
Yeah.
Family Feud's way over. Speaking of Family Feud, we're playing on today's show.
I agree though. Jeopardy is the best. Love me.
All right, let's get back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Canucks in Colorado tonight. Playing for pride this evening. Do we know starting goalies yet, Harm? Did you see anything?
I haven't seen that, but I did see that I think McKinnon is sitting out.
Okay. Well, do you think Kevin Lankin is starting tonight's game?
Well, I don't know. Let's see.
No, sorry. What I meant to say was like, do you think they should start Kevin Lankin? He's been confirmed as the starter. I was going to say this is a layup start for Kevin Lankin. Like, put Thatcher Demko in front of the home fans, right? You've got 3 home games left. Go out strong. This is the final road trip of the season. Kevin Lankinen needs to play some games. I go Lankinen tonight, Demko next home game, then Lankinen gets a home game. Demko closes out your season on Fan Appreciation Night. Just seems like it. Okay, perfect. No more talk about the goalies. Did you have anything on the game that you wanted to talk about?
Not really, if I'm being totally honest. I think we're all at the point where the games don't matter as much as some of the big picture talking points around the team.
And we're going to get into some big picture talking points. But I must say, watching the Colorado Avalanche is always a fun time. And what else is always a fun time is our watch parties. And our watch party tonight is the night, folks. It is at Greta Bar YVR, 50 West Cordova Street, Vancouver versus Colorado. That's kind of an afterthought. I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to watch the game, but I've already packed the Nation gear. We've got a ton of fun stuff going on. We're going to give away some memorabilia, signed memorabilia, I should say. We're going to give away the Yeti cooler. There's other stuff too. It's going to be a lot of fun. Come out. Come have a good time with us. You know what? I'm seeing more and more people. I think Paul Papadoulis is going to be there. Paul, make sure you come introduce yourself to me tonight. Any listener of the show, or just anyone, just feel free to come up, say hello. I want to meet everybody. That's my favorite part. Remember when we met Jeremy Lee at the watch party and all the other listeners and watchers over the years? It's always a fun time. So come on out. event is presented by Fountain Tire and it is in support of Kids Sport. Vancouver must be 19 plus, even though it's a free event, still must be 19 plus to get in to Greta. Hey, here's something I thought about. Do you think we have like teenagers that listen to our show? We must.
Probably.
We definitely
We're on
do.
YouTube too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
younger
true.
audience.
I've looked at the YouTube analytics before. There are some teenagers that watch, and on Instagram a lot as well. We get a lot of like, I would say 13 to 18 on Instagram watching.
Who's the youngest listener of the show? That's something I'd like to know. Just like, am I going to be at a restaurant sometime and see like a kid on an iPad watching Canucks Convo on replay? Because I'll be honest, like I was listening to the Patcast pretty young, like not. When did I start really listening to it? Patcast was probably about 15 years old. I think I was 15 at the time. But I was, appointment listening. I always made time. So I am just curious. Brian Choi in the chat, who's lying. Now everybody's just saying they're 7 and 8 years old. I'm not reading these stupid comments. I'm just curious. I'm curious. Like, the younger generation, are they getting their Canucks fix from Canucks Convo? Anyways,
it trips me up now that there are Canucks fans who were born after 2011.
Dude, I will never forget that Reddit post. And no offense to whoever made it. Welcome to being a Canucks fan. On Roberto Luongo's Ring of Honor night, comments on Reddit. Hey, for those that got to watch Luongo, was he as good as Thatcher Demko? And the comments that flooded it. And people were nice and respectful, but it was just like, yes. Like, yes, 1,000 times. Yes. Hall of Famer. Yeah, anyways. It does trip me up here. It does trip me up as well. Okay, anyways. I don't want to hear these comments from people. Say this Big Hawk Hockey goes, I'm actually 3. No, stop. Enough.
Okay, quickly, but before we move on, I pulled up the YouTube analytics. So actually on YouTube, it's less than 1%, like less than 0.5%, 13 to 17.
Wow.
But 18 to 24 is at 7%. Our biggest audience, half of our audience, is between 25 and 44 years old. So
that's my demographic. Our demographic.
And overwhelmingly male audience. I think we know that. And 78% coming from Canada, about 11 from the US, and 2% from Sweden. That's our third most viewed country. So
I'll tell you who the youngest listener of Canucks Convo is going to be. Chris Faber's child. As soon as that kid is born, Chris is going to put Canucks Convo on.
I think he'll start with his own podcast, Canucks Insider.
Well, dude, if it's Faber's kid, he's going to listen to more than one podcast. Let's be honest.
True.
Have you ever been in a car ride with Faber for more than an hour?
Not for more than an hour.
He queues up podcasts before he leaves. He just knows what is coming, and he just keeps listening to podcasts. Anyways,
let's get back on track again.
We're getting off track on a busy show. Brock Boeser. This came out today. This was courtesy of Ian McIntyre over at Sportsnet. These quotes, and I did really want to get to these because I think it's the most important thing right now is you're kind of heading into the offseason. You're trying to map out what next year's team looks like. We know this team elected not to trade Brock Boeser or Pius Suter at the deadline. They elected to stand pat in hopes of chasing a playoff berth. Well, now we know they're not going to make the playoffs. This is what Brock Boeser had to say about returning to the Canucks. He said, honestly, it's unlikely at this point. It sucks. It's unfortunate. I'm just trying to play good hockey, and then I'll worry about everything after that. We all know it's been a roller coaster of a year. There's been a lot of different things. Now, another thing Boeser said is that he's not even talking to his agent right now. He won't talk to his agent, Ben Hankinson, until after the season. He said, I'm refusing to talk to Hank right now. I feel like I'm playing a lot better hockey recently, and I don't want to get distracted. That's one of the things I've learned. When there's distractions, I don't play my best hockey. The mental aspect of the game is so important. This year, there's been a lot of distractions. Boeser went on to talk about the team struggles as well and how frustrating it is that they weren't better earlier in the year, but Boeser saying it's unlikely he returns to the Canucks at this point. And I feel like we should stress, like, this isn't a Brock Boeser decision.
Yeah, for a while, the writing's been on the wall that this front office group hasn't been fully sold on Boeser as the type of player that they'd be willing to commit a really long-term contract to. And Boeser with the 40-goal campaign last year, and even though this year has been underwhelming at times, still on pace for nearly 30, especially prorated over 82 games, accounting for the games that he missed with the concussion in November, I believe it was. So with that type of goal scoring track record, with how many teams have cap space this summer, with how shallow the UFA pool is, he's going to get paid in free agency. We've talked about this, and for a while, I don't know that this management group has fully believed in him, whether it's for the foot speed reasons, whether it's believing that last year's 40-goal campaign was the outlier, whether it's related to preparation, whatever the reason, they haven't viewed him as a must-keep player. And that's really also been evident when you look at how quickly they acquired Marcus Pettersson and then, like 2-3 days later, signed him to a long-term extension. When this management group wants a guy signed, they get it done. So not totally surprised here.
No real surprise.
The other thing I'll say too is I don't even think at this point it's wrong for the Canucks to take this stance, right? They shouldn't be overpaying to extend Boeser just because, we didn't get anything for him at the deadline, so now we got to save face and try and work out an extension. Like, that's a sunk cost at this point already. Whatever happened in the deadline happened in the deadline. You didn't monetize him. You didn't get whatever draft pick or package you could have at that point. Now you've just got to make the best possible decision you can at this juncture. And I'll be honest, the idea of paying Boeser, say, $8 million times 6 or 7 years is really not appealing in a post JT Miller world where I don't know if the Canucks have the ideal centerman for him to truly flourish and have long-term success here.
I think you're right. I think you're right with the idea that you don't want to just make the signing to say, look, we signed Brock Boeser. They've been using him in the season ticket stuff for next year. So people were looking at that and saying, oh, I bet they're going to sign him. No, he's still on the team. He's still on the team, but we don't know. And Boeser, of course, saying it's unlikely that he returns, in case you're just joining us. Now, I will say this, or I will ask you this, Harm. What does Brock Boeser get on the open market at this point? And we've had this conversation a lot, but we're getting closer and closer to free agency. Like, what does Brock Boeser, who finished the season strong, let's not forget there's that context since really we've last talked about this. He's finishing the season pretty strong. And again, he just talked about it. No distractions right now. What does Brock Boeser get on the open market? Because the Canucks were willing to go to that $8 million number, but they only wanted to do it for 5 years. Does Brock Boeser get 7 by 8 on the open market?
I'll be honest, I don't totally know. I view Boeser as a really interesting litmus test of just how bold and potentially crazy general managers are going to get with how much they're willing to spend in free agency with the cap expected to skyrocket. I've seen, for example, some of the contract projections with AFP Analytics, which sort of had him in the $8.5 to almost $9 million range. On like a 7-year deal. And I looked at that and went, I'd be shocked if he gets anything like that. Can he get 8 million times 7? I wouldn't be shocked. And at that price point, I think that's an overpayment, to be totally honest with you. But this is also where I'm curious how many teams are actually going to have the green light from ownership that over the next 3 years with the cap skyrocketing, you're going to be able to spend to the cap every year. That's something that Chris McFarland, for example, spoke about with Pierre LeBrun. LeBrun did a terrific story when the cap news came out 2 or 3 months ago. Like a lot of us, including myself, have just been assuming that teams have this cap space. They're going to spend most of it. But will there be some level of restraint? Well, teams have learned their lesson, right? Because we've seen certain free agent classes like 2016. Do you remember the 2016 free agent class? Not just Louis Eriksson, but like Milan Lucic, Andrew Ladd, all these terrible contracts that were signed. And the lesson was, even if you have the cap space, doesn't mean you should blow it, because a lot of these contracts come back to bite you in the ass. I'm curious, have GMs actually learned that lesson? Because if they're a bit more prudent, then maybe the number clocks in a little bit below that. But also, I wonder, like, part of it's going to come down to what exactly does Boeser really want? Is it the AAV or is it the term? It sounds like he wants more of the term. So if he wants, let's say, 7 years from a team, is he willing to sacrifice on the AAV a little bit? And if there isn't as robust a market for his services as maybe we believe, does that cap it drop below $8 million on, let's say, a 7-year deal? I wouldn't be surprised by that either. So yeah, I'm sort of looking at that $7.5, $8 million range. And yeah, I think he can probably get 7 years.
If it's 7 by 7, I think the Canucks gotta sign that.
Yeah, but I don't think that'll get it done at this point. And here's the other thing too. The Canucks presumably burnt up some of their goodwill and this idea of a hometown discount when they kind of sewered him after the deadline, when Patrick Allvin was talking about Brock and how there just wasn't a lot of interest, and the way he described Brock as a player. No person, no employee in any line of work wants to be described like that in a public setting. And I don't know, if I was in Brock's shoes, as soon as those words were uttered by Patrick Allvin, not saying I would have immediately closed the door on signing in Vancouver, because he clearly likes it here, but the idea of I'm going to take a steep discount.
Yeah, it didn't sit right.
Like at that point, it's like, come on, you haven't prioritized an extension for me. Now you're, I don't want to say bad mouthing, but you're not saying good things about me.
Brock didn't appreciate it.
The press.
Brock didn't appreciate those words. We know that. Brock didn't appreciate that. Okay. And now the anyone else's are rolling in of, okay, how do you replace Brock Boeser? And folks, this is going to be a busy offseason for the Vancouver Canucks, and we're going to start talking about it with our poll question, which is brought to you by Pacific Toyota Dealers. We want to tell you about the 100% electric Toyota BZ4X, an SUV packed with plenty of space. The BZ4X can handle any terrain and can take you from the city to the slopes. It's backed by the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're driving a Toyota. And if you're driving a BZ4X, you can get access to HOV lanes, even if you're driving alone. When you choose a BZ4X, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives. And now you can finance a 2025 BZ4X from 0.99% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Get in and go. Toyota. Love it. Okay, our poll question. Now, this was an interesting one because we wrote about it over at Canucks Army today. Great column by Stéphane Roger. And when I initially read it, I was thinking to myself, okay, like, what are we talking about here? But I feel like this is something, I don't know, maybe other people in the market are. I feel like our chat hasn't brought it up much. When we talk about improving this team, a very common theme that we've talked about, Harm, is that, okay, you're probably going to have to give to get. So, yeah, you love a player like Elias Pettersson. Sure, you love Jonathan Lekkerimäki. You love Tom Willander. You love these prospects. Hell, you love Aatu Räty. But you're probably going to have to give up at least one of them to get this top 6 center that we know this team needs. Now, the interesting thing was, we never really talked about the picks aspect of this. I feel like we've been focusing on the prospects a little too much. So the column was the Canucks should prioritize picks instead of prospects. And when I read it, I was like, I don't think that's right. I think you want to draft with your selection when you don't make the playoffs. I think you want to. But I thought about it more, and I am fully on team picks. So this is our question. In their quest to add a top 6 center, would you rather the Canucks trade prospects like Pettersson, Willander, or Lekkerimäki, or should they trade their first and maybe even second round pick? Remember, the Canucks have a first, they have a second, they don't have a third in this draft, but they do have their first, they do have their second. Overwhelmingly, this surprised me. 90.2% of voters saying picks, trade the picks instead of prospects, and 9.8% say prospects. And I don't know if you agree with me, Harm, but I am fully on team picks. Trade those picks, because we've talked about the goal of keeping Quinn Hughes forever. We've talked about how important next season is. Those prospects might not be huge impact players on your team next year. Hell, we've talked about the OEL buyout as well, and how important it is to have ELC contributors. Those guys might not be significant contributors to your lineup, but they are going to be more significant contributors faster than whatever you draft with the first or second round pick. I'm fully on board with prospects here. And my answer might be different if Quinn Hughes were signed long-term, right? Like if Quinn Hughes were signed long-term and I was looking at, okay, what's the best way for this team to compete long-term and at least win a cup before Quinn leaves? And in this case, that is years and years and years away. The goal is to get Quinn signed long-term, and you want to compete next year. The best way to do that is by keeping these 3 prospects. So I'm saying don't touch any of these guys. Trade those picks.
I understand why the idea of trading the picks is more appealing, because as you alluded to, some of these prospects are ready to make an NHL impact potentially as soon as next season, whereas you're going to have to wait for that first rounder to actually develop into something. But the caveat is the teams that you're trying to make trades with, how do they view prospects versus picks? Because I'll tell you this, I bet you most teams would rather the prospects.
Yep. It might be both. It might be both, man. Like for a real top 6 center, it might be both. That's the other thing.
Of course, but all else being equal, a selling team wants prospects all day long rather than draft picks. You've seen this around the league too. A lot of times when some sellers leading up to the deadline were entertaining the idea of, like Pittsburgh, for example, has made it pretty clear. And I know they acquired the Canucks, first round pick and as part of the Marcus Pettersson trade. But for instance, when they made the Jake Gensel trade a year ago, and even just when that market has been talking about the possibility of trading Rickard Rakell, a lot of the discussion has highlighted around Kyle Dubas really wants prospects rather than picks. And I think that has to be factored in too. It also reminds me of last year's draft when the Sabres were in a position where their prospect pool was so deep and they wanted to, like Kevin Adams publicly said, I'm going to explore opportunities to trade this like mid first round pick to improve this team now. And the Sabres tried hard. They couldn't swing a deal. And it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of appetite and interest in that pick. And especially for this year's first rounder, where this year's first round pick doesn't seem that, or first round draft class doesn't seem that deep and strong. Like, how valuable is that first round pick relative to previous years and relative to some of your prospects? I'd say this, I'm not trading Willander or Lecker-Mackey. But for example, somebody like DPD, as much as I like him, I'm going to say it again, I'm not looking at him as an untouchable for the right player at the right age on the right contract.
I think it's hard to disagree with that. Where's Achi Ratu slot in this conversation for you? He's finishing the season strong, man. Like, and I'm not going to do he's going to replace Pius-Suter bit next year. I'm not going to do that. But like, you can't ignore what he's doing to close out this year.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Does management believe in him? Because if they believe in him, then considering the team, and even organizationally, we know that they don't have many center prospects. You kind of them. But if you are management and you're not convinced that he's actually going to develop into like a full-time everyday NHL player, and that this hot streak down the stretch is the type of thing we've seen from, let's say, like Jack Rathbone and Akita Hirose the past, then sure, maybe you look at flipping him. But to me, to be totally honest with you, I don't think Ratu has enough trade value to justify moving off of him compared to just the club's need at center and how devoid they are of young talent down the middle.
That's what it all comes down to. It's going to be an interesting and it's going to be a very busy offseason for the Vancouver Canucks. Harm, you good to get to Family Feud?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Take it away, technical producer Jacob Lazar.
Welcome back to another edition of Canucks Conversation Family Feud. All right, guys, I'm not going to lie. This one's tough. This survey has resulted in a couple questions where there's like 4 or 5 answers within like 2 or 3 points of each other.
It's flawed survey then.
That being said, there's also two huge number 1 answers. So it's attainable, but it's going to be tough.
Okay, but it is mathematically possible.
It is I would not give it to you if it was mathematically impossible. Okay. I played it by myself a couple times, like, what might they guess? And I got you guys to win like one of the 2 times I tried. So it's possible.
So you know the answers and you know the questions.
Well, yeah, it's just like it's like a mock draft.
Okay, yeah, but you bat 500 on that? You bat 500 when you know the questions?
But I'm not answering as myself. I'm saying, what is Quad's going to guess on this one?
Okay. Hopefully Jack Skilly's in there somewhere.
Yeah, no Jack Skilly's this week. But all right, for those of you who are new, we play this every week. Quads is going to go first. He's going to have 25 seconds on the clock. His time will begin when I finish reading the first question. Quads, if you can't think of a response, say pass. We'll come back to it at the end. All right, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, How excited will Canucks fans be about the team's overall outlook on night 1 of the season next year?
9.
Name a player who had multiple stints with the Canucks.
Trevor Linden.
Name a Canuck prospect who will play their first NHL game next season.
Tom Lander.
Name a current NHL team logo without any words or letters in the logo.
Pass.
Name a former Canuck taller than 6'2".
Darcy Hordichuk.
Name a current NHL team logo without words or letters in it.
Wild. Minnesota.
Wild?
Wild.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. I'll give that to you. All right. Flag Harmon down. I'll tell you up your score.
He's coming. I think I did okay. I did pull one just completely out of my butt there. That was not a great answer, but I think some people will appreciate it. I should also Harmon, I think it was okay. Jacob, so you had your headset off, but Jacob told us right away that this was a really hard survey. So
Okay.
We'll see.
Well, Quad,
Also,
you got to 109 points, so it's good.
That's
All
great.
right.
Because one of my answers wasn't even correct. I just looked up a hockey DB page. One of my answers was just wrong. Like okay, anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, you got 0. I'll say you got 0 for that one, but did well otherwise. All right, Harm, you're going to have 30 seconds on the clock. Your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. If you can't think of a response, say pass. We'll come back to it at the end. If you give one of Quad's answers, I'll ask you to try again, and you'll also hear the buzzer. Harmon Dial, are you ready?
Yep.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, how excited will Canucks fans be about the team's overall outlook on night 1 of the season next year?
7.
Name a player who had multiple stints with the Canucks.
Trevor Linden.
Try again.
Luke Shen.
Name a Canuck prospect who will play their first NHL game next season.
Oh, Kirill Kudraitsev.
Name a current NHL team logo without any words or letters on it.
Red Wings.
Name a former Canuck who is taller than 6'2".
Trevor Linden.
All right. So I will say I didn't even have to put my finger on the buzzer for that because there's no way you would have guessed the answer that Quads gave. Harmon, I think you did really well.
Nice. I think so too. I thought
Who did you give Quads?
Darcy Hordichuk.
All right.
So that one was hard. That kind of tripped me up.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
Here's the thing. People will know this is not the first time I've answered Darcy Hordichuk and got 0 points in Family Feud. Darcy Hordichuk holds a very special place in my heart, as you could tell. Jacob booked Darcy Hordichuk. He was in the NHL 2K10 game on the Wii, and I played that game a lot. And Darcy Hordichuk always just beat the crap. I think he'd like the highest fighting rating, certainly on the Canucks in that game, and I love to fight in those games. So I would always put Darcy Hordichuk on the first line with Sedins so that I could fight.
Oh my God, Quad's letting out the demons in his video games. Were you getting bullied as a kid or something?
No, I like fighting. You know that.
All right. Well, anyways, Harm, I actually don't remember what you said for your first response on the scale of 1 to 10.
It was 7.
7? All right. So we'll give you there. So 7 was the number 3 answer. Quads, you said 9. That was not even in the top 5, or not even in the top 6. Only
Why would you say 9?
Optimism?
Yeah, but that's a little too much optimism.
Have you met Canucks fans?
The number 1 response was 6. Number 3 was 7.
Okay, Jacob, bookmark this. Put it in your phone right now. Okay, week 1 of the season, before the week. Make a question. How optimistic are you for the season? And I guarantee 9 will be the number.
9's too much, though,
dude.
Even you also got to remember. You also got to remember.
Bennett. They're going to make acquisitions.
Hold on. They're not going to sign Sam Bennett. First of all. Second of all, you got to remember that we're trying to guess what fans are saying right now. Fans are apathetic right now.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
And that's why Harmon got 19 points there. He did well.
Sorry, what was the number 1 answer for that again?
Number 1 answer was 6. But this one, it was like number 1, number 2, number 3 were only separated by like 2 points. It was super tight. When I looked at the graph in Google Forms, it was literally a bell curve. It was awesome. That's the best data we've ever gotten, like almost a perfect bell curve. All right, name a player who had multiple stints with the Canucks. Trevor Linden was the number 1 answer, Quads. Luke Shen, number 2 answer.
Nice, Harm.
So you got 14 points there. Another one where it was close. Number 2, 3, 4, and 5 were all just 1 point differences between them.
4, 5.
So we went Linden, Shen, Brent Sopel, Brad Richardson, Harold Snaps.
Nice.
So great work there getting the number 1 and number 2 answers. That brings you guys up to 142. So only need 58 points over the last 3. All right, the Canuck prospect will get their first NHL game next season. Quads, you hit number 1 with Tom Willander. Harm, you hit number 2 with Kirill Kudryavtsev.
Nice.
You got 19 points there. Quads, I'm surprised you didn't go with the number 3 answer of Nikita Tolopilo.
Yes.
Lots of people give it, and there was a couple who were like, this one's for Quads, Nikita Tolopilo. So,
awesome.
And then number 4 answer, and this one's for Dave Hall, if Dave's listening. Ty Mueller was the number 4 answer. That's Dave's guy. All right.
1 vote, and it was from Dave.
No, there's 10 votes for Ty Mueller.
Wow.
So a current NHL team logo without any words and letters in it. Quads, you hit the number 1 answer with the Minnesota Wild.
Nice.
And
I thought
because we talked about that logo last week.
Yes.
Harm, you got the number 3 answer with the Detroit Red Wings. 10 points there. I have some beef with somebody. I don't know their name. I wouldn't name them even if I did. They, in their response, said, there's like 27 options. This isn't a good question. So first off, there's only 13 options. Only 13 logos do not have a word or a letter in them. Also, the response that this person gave was the Calgary Flames, whose logo has a letter in it.
That's a massive C.
And also, I made it very clear, you can't use the Canucks for this because all of their logos have letters in them. And somebody responded with the Vancouver Canucks. So come on, people. It wasn't that bad of a question. And the whole point was we've done a few logo questions recently. We talked a lot about the Wild last week, so, hey, I was hoping that's where you guys would go and worked out. All right. You guys need 29 points in the final round. Quads, Darcy Hordichuk was a wash. No one said Darcy Hordichuk. Harm,
29. It's going to be
Trevor Linden.
You said Trevor Linden. So Trevor Linden got you a single point.
Oh, I'd like to change my answer.
Linden.
I'd like to change my answer.
There was some good top answers here.
Probably Myers is up there.
Hold on.
No, well, it was former Canucks. So no Myers,
former, right? Yeah.
Was the number 1 answer even worth 29 points?
The number 1 was worth 22.
Okay.
In Nikita Zadorov.
Okay. It's okay.
Number 2 was also a Nikita, who is a defenseman, Nikita Triamkin. Carson Soucy was number 3. Eric Goodbranson, number 4. And then a couple goalies with Luongo and Markstrom. If you guys had gotten like any combination of the top 4, or I guess of the top, if you got one of
it was
the
tough.
top 2, you guys would have gotten there, but like it would have been close, right? Like Zadorov and Markstrom together would have gotten it there if you guys.
The fact that Tramkin was second is wild, and I get it. Like his height was massive, but just Barr was 6'2", not over 6'5".
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, Darcy Hordichuk's also 6'1". That was the other thing that I found out. So yeah, tough one. But you know what?
I will say the next survey is not available yet, but we'll have it for tomorrow's show. It'll be available then. So,
let's go, Calgary Flames hockey team.
I completely misclicked. I did not mean to do that, but good way to wrap
timing. Pretty good timing. Okay. Speaking of let's go teams, let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you once again by the Vancouver Canadians, who are back at the Nat. The 2025 season is underway. Seas are on the road this week, but the home opener is next week on Tuesday, April 15th. And what better way to open the season with a fireworks night? The Seas are home all week next week, and that includes a Friday nooner at the Nat. Get your weekend started early. First pitch is at 1:05 p.m. The weekends with a White Spot Family Fun Sunday, an afternoon game when the kids get to run the bases post-game. For tickets, call 604-872-5232 or check out canadiansbaseball.com. Now, let me see these April promos, Jacob. Pull that up bigger. I need to read that. Okay, so we got post-game fireworks on the 15th. The magnet schedule of the giveaway. Oh, man. I got to get in on that. Is that the same day, April 15th? Wow. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
I've got my eyes on that April 19th. The Saturday matinee.
Ooh.
We got the plaid Seas shirt. That looks
great.
The
lumberjack jersey. Ooh, notepad and pen. I really like notepads. I'm a big notepad guy.
And then also that blue throwback vintage toque looks awesome as well.
Yeah, we got to make sure we get out to some Seas games. And you should too. Anyone else, brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. Always a good time. Even if you don't like baseball, like Harmon loves going to Vancouver Canadians games. Lots of fun.
That how does that Tuke giveaway work? That Tuke
First
looks
500
fire.
fans. First 500 fans.
Dude, I'm going to that game.
All right. Dude, I would kill myself laughing if you don't tell anyone you got it and then just show up to the show the next day wearing that toque. I would love that. Pull it off. Let's see it. Yeah, we got to get to some C's games this year. Okay. Some anyone else's. We had a few. Let's see. Yeah, okay. We had a few. Let's get to some of them here. This one was from S. Little Boston, who said the Wild and Bruins are going to have the cap space and the need for Brock Boeser. Let's get back on to Boeser for a sec here, Harm. I asked you what he's going to get in free agency. Like, who are the favorites in your mind to sign Boeser? Because to me, it is the Wild and it is the Bruins. Like, the Wild make a ton of sense for a bunch of reasons. Obviously there'd be mutual, maybe there's a hometown discount there because that's a real hometown for Brock Boeser to play for the Minnesota Wild. I think the Wild are kind of the team that jumps out at me, and then the Bruins as well. Like, the Bruins are going to look to rebound. They're going to have a high draft pick, but like, they're not getting rid of Zadorov. They're not getting rid of Lindholm. They want to compete right now.
I don't know if the Bruins make sense, to be honest with you. I know they have Pastrnak and McAvoy, but that team isn't anywhere close to contending. And with how thin that forward group is, they need more dynamic drivers. It's sort of like the Canucks problem. They don't have centers. Who's going to be the center, the playmaking center, that's going to unlock the best version of Boeser on that Bruins team? Yeah,
like Elias Lindholm's number one right now.
So I don't actually like to fit between Boeser and the Bruins, to be honest with you.
But
just the team direction.
I feel like the Bruins are going to do a lot this offseason. Do you disagree with that?
We'll see, but I mean, they sold on Marchand, they sold on Carlo, who they didn't have to sell on. He had quite a bit of term, and it's not like Carlo was deep into his 30s. That looks like a team that's retooling, man. Maybe they have a busy offseason and chase guys like Brock, but I think that would be a mistake for them. I think that core needs a proper retool / rebuild.
Yeah, but how are you going to do that with Pastrnak, with Lindholm, with
yeah, but how does signing Brock to an expensive contract when you don't even have a center for him to play with? How does adding a bad contract to the books help that?
Because he's better than Morgan Geekie?
Is he though? Like,
I mean, okay, fine.
He is, but like, yeah. is he like Morgan Geekie makes $2 million? Is Brock Boeser giving you like $6 million more worth of value? He just put up 30 goals this year.
But like, let's not ignore that. Don't the Bruins have a ton of cap space this coming off season? What am I like? They do have a lot of cap space, don't they?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, they have like the 8th most cap space in the league. They've got $69 million committed for next year. Like, call me crazy. I think the Bruins are just going to retool by going out and signing guys. Like, I think they're going to make these moves.
I just don't think Brock makes sense for them as a fit.
I didn't think Elias Lindholm made sense for them as a fit either, but they did that. So I'm gonna say they just keep doing that. Like, honestly, I think that's the direction they go.
No, but Lindholm made a lot more sense, even though you could tell he was washed because they had such a desperate need at center.
Yeah.
And they were hoping that if he plays with Pastrnak, you're gonna get the version of Lindholm from Calgary, where when he was able to play with elite guys, he was like an 80-point producer.
Have they learned? Have they learned from last year's mistakes? Because the way you're talking is you think yes, they have. I don't think they have.
You'd hope so. I think they have.
Okay.
I'll wait for the response from S. Little Boston on the Instagram chat. Obviously, he's likes the Canucks, but also is in Boston. He always provides us with some insight when we talk about the Bruins.
Brian Choi, was Ryan Kessler as good as March to April 2025 via Sooner? Oh, that's so good.
That's funny.
Really good. Okay, this one from Shiv AU.
Minnesota, by the way. Like, I don't even know if Minnesota is necessarily a slam dunk. With their cap situation, they got Brock Fabers. I believe his contract. Yeah, he's going from his ELC to $8.5 million. They also got to pay Marco Rossi as an RFA, who's had a really productive year.
They've got $72 million in cap space heading into next year.
So plus there's already that connection between.
They have 72 committed, I should say, not cap space. Yeah.
Plus there's already that connection between, are the Wild going to go after Brock Nelson, who's also from the Minnesota area. So
can the Wild get Brock on a 7x7?
I don't know.
If they can, they sign it. If they can, they sign it. Wild isn't gonna be the team he signs 7x8 or 7x8.
The Wild can, right? The path probably involves them looking at Rossi and going, we're not sold on him, which for whatever reason, it seems like that's kind of been the case, that they might dangle him in the offseason because they fear how expensive his next contract is going to be. So maybe they go out and move him for a haul, sign Nelson to replace him at the center ice position. And then, okay, now you have the cap space to also go out and sign Boeser too. But if they're going to re-sign Rossi and go after Brock Nelson, I don't know if they have the cap flexibility to sign Boeser too.
Don't forget, offseason after this one coming up, Kirill Kaprizov needs a new contract.
Yep.
What the hell is that going to come in at? Like 14 million? Like, seriously. They have to do some long-term planning, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see. And, you know, as I work through it, it really seems like, yeah, the only way Brock Boeser is going to Minnesota is if he's willing to take a bit of a discount at 7x7. But hey, maybe he is. Maybe he is. You never know. Okay. Is there anything else on Boeser? Jacob, you're looking at all the chat.
Yeah, well, there was you were going to get to Shiv AU's comment as well.
Oh yeah,
and then there was a few. I didn't catch names because they were in a few different channels talking about moving his exclusive rights before UFA for a mid-round pick. So
this one was from Shiv AU. He said Boeser scoring 40 in Minnesota is going to feed families in this media market, assuming the viewer is from Minnesota. There now, this idea of trading rights. What does signing rights go for in this day and age, Harm?
Mid-round pick.
Mid as in fourth?
Maybe like a fourth.
All right.
Maybe fifth.
At least they got something for Brock Boeser. Can't say they didn't get nothing for him.
Well, and if in Boeser's case that 8th year is really important and is going to give a discount on an AAV for an 8th year, then it's probably the smart thing to try and recoup that if the signing team is willing to give him that 8th year, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing is that's not how it works. We found this out like a year or two ago, remember? That the only way to pull that off is the Canucks.
Oh, it's got to be the sign and trade.
Yeah,
right.
The Canucks need to sign the contract and then trade him and the contract. So yeah, it's interesting how that works. That should be something they change in the next CBA. I know it's probably really low on the priority list, but let's make it a thing where if you trade for a guy's rights, you become the team that can sign him for 8 years. It's so weird to me that you can't. That's not how the rule works. That's stupid.
I'll be honest. I forgot that's how the rule worked. I thought it was.
Yeah, I did too. That's why I brought it up.
Well, your point stands, Jacob. You can still do it.
Yeah, I thought it was, for example, Carolina trades Gensel to Tampa, and Tampa can then sign their own 8-year contract because they own his rights.
No, that's how it should work, but it's not, which is stupid.
I agree, but who cares?
Let me into the CBA meetings. I would literally start a lockout over this. I would. No remorse. I would lock out.
You'd be playing both sides. You want to play the. You want to make changes, but you're also owner quads.
That's right. Well, who does this benefit? I think this benefits everyone. I don't think this is an owner thing. I don't think this is a player's thing.
I think practically it doesn't really make any difference.
No, it's more exciting. It's more exciting for hockey media to have these conversations that, oh my gosh, they just traded for his rights. They could be the next team to sign him for 8 years. Are they going to go do that? That's way more entertaining. That's better for the game. That's better for the owners. It gets people talking about your teams more. Better for the players. Gets people talking about players more. This is a layup.
Sure.
See, that's the answer I want to hear, Mr. Bettman. Okay.
This is so funny. Quads in the CBA negotiation wouldn't care about hockey-related revenue. All these like hot button issues that sort of have like tens of millions of dollars on the line. The players would, media. Like you'd be an owner. The players would come walking in complaining about, oh, we're not getting a cut of the expansion team fees. We want that in our next CBA. And owner quads would be like, I don't care. Just fix the sign and trade thing. I'm starting to lock out over the sign and trade thing. I'll give you the expansion. Like I'll dole out millions and millions for that. Just fix the sign and trade.
That's right. Took the words out of my mouth. Let's fix this stupid thing, and we'll get back to that. We're gonna negotiate about your other thing down the line. What was it about? What did you say? Expansion fees? I don't even know what you're talking about. Let's talk about sign and trades. That's how it would go. Okay. Anything else? This one from LC250. Final thing on Boeser. Let's close the Boeser conversation here. He said, regardless of where Boeser goes, I'll still be a big fan of him. I'm going to say the same thing. I really like Brock Boeser as a person. Really like him as a player as well. Yeah, he's been good. He's been great over the years. Always a player that is easy to talk to. And yeah, I'm not going to say I wish him all the best because it's not over in Vancouver. But yeah, regardless of where he goes, you won't see me bad-mouthing Brock Boeser.
He's been pure class the whole way through here. And I'm glad that this almost came out in a sense because it gives Canucks fans the opportunity through these final home games to celebrate him, appreciate him, give him that love, knowing that these could be the final days of him wearing a Canucks uniform.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that we need to get to today? I feel like there was another thing
I will mention, because a couple people were talking about it, the Whitecaps are on like an absolute heater right now. And they're in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which is like North America's version of the Champions League. They had an away match against the Mexican side. They needed just a draw with a goal. So because of away goals, a draw with a goal would have put them through to the semis to host Messi and Miami at BC Place in a couple weeks. They're tied 1-1. They give up a goal in like the 89th minute. So this Mexican team scores. They're celebrating like they're about to win. The Whitecaps go back up the pitch and score in stoppage time to tie it at 2 and win on aggregate. So the Whitecaps are in the semifinals of this Champions Cup, and Inter Miami is coming to Vancouver in a couple of weeks. So, hey, no Canucks playoffs hockey, but we've talked about Abby, and we're getting like a semifinal match of the CONCACAF Champions Cup at BC Place. I think it's on April 25th.
So the big game ended in a tie? That's what you're telling me?
Yeah, that's exactly how it ended.
Okay.
But you
got to recognize, like, 89th minute. I know you're probably not a soccer guy. The fact, like, that's the equivalent of, that's as insane of a comeback because it's so much harder to score in soccer. That's as insane as, let's say, like Nashville series when Brock scored twice to tie the game up late and send it to OT. Like, it's on that level. It's not just, oh, they scored one goal in the final minute. Like, we see that all the time in the NHL. Like, it's way more difficult in soccer when there's 11 guys that you got to go through. And in a sport where goals are barely scored.
Yeah, I will say this: the only soccer I'll ever watch now is the Whitecaps. Sponsor of the show as well, we should say. I'm a big Whitecaps guy, huge Whitecaps guy. But yeah, soccer's never really done it for me. Like, I used to watch the Italian league with my grandpa, but I don't know.
I don't blame you. I played a ton of soccer growing up. That was the main sport I played. Loved playing it. Even when I was playing it, I could never really get into watching it. The best though was, I'm not gonna lie, I was in Spain in the summer, and that was when Spain was in the Euros. So just like going to the bars and pubs in Spain and watching them win the Euros, that was really cool. But outside of that, no, I'm not really a huge soccer guy as far as actually watching it.
That's the ultimate, like, okay, I will watch soccer if.
Yeah, seriously.
You know what I mean? Absolutely. Yeah. And no World Cup. People are asking if I watch the World Cup. No. I watch Italy. Like, I will watch Italy.
Will you watch the final at least of the World Cup?
No.
I mean,
Quads,
we're trending to the point where in the next World Cup, Canada is going to have better odds than Italy to win.
And I should also say that I will watch Canada as well. I will watch Canada. I think that's fun. Yeah. What did Italy win the other year? I remember watching that and getting pumped.
So Italy won the Euros in 2021.
Yeah. So that's the thing.
Yeah. And then missed the next World Cup somehow because that's just how Italian.
I remember watching that game where they missed out on the World Cup qualifying as well. I was watching that one with my grandpa. But I will say, yeah, I did watch the Euro final when it was Italy. You know, North Burnaby, born and raised. I head out there. People are honking in the streets. Like, it was a big deal when Italy won. Italy won that game. So I remember that. Soccer's just not my thing. Okay, let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day. Should we do a baseball bet? Can I do a Canucks bet? Yeah, we're doing it. Watch party, Canucks, money line, +180.
They're already eliminated, so it doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. You can make Canucks bets.
Yeah, Canucks.
I think that's what Harmon said. He had to wait for that.
Yeah, +180 on the money line. Canucks are pretty heavy underdogs tonight, but we're going to have a great time at Greta Bar YVR. Make sure you come out, hang out with us. It's just going to be a great time. I know it's going to be a great time. I've packed all the merch. We got sweaters. We got hats. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got Simon Rubilia as well. And it's signed by hockey players. I should have clarified that. It's not like I'm going to sign Canucks shirts. Although I will. If you want me to sign a Canucks Army shirt, I'll bring my gray pen so that I can get that done for
Save
everybody.
the pen. I don't think there are going to be any requests.
I'll bring a couple pens. You never know. Plus 180 Canucks money line against the Avalanche tonight. That's what we're taking. That is our Bet365 bet of the day. Brought to you by, you guessed it, Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat-trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 90 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Harm, one thing I forgot to ask you, how did the show with Jeff go on Friday?
It went well. We spent a lot of time talking about the Anaheim Ducks and their future 2019 draft. We weren't exactly spending a ton of time breaking down or previewing the weekend games, but had some fun big picture conversations, and obviously made fun of you for skipping out on the first sunny Friday when it was clear that the Canucks playoff odds were basically over.
I didn't say it was over. I was, you know what I was doing during the show? I was just running Money Puck over and over.
Yeah, sure.
That's the draft lottery simulator that you run over and over. No, I will be honest. I did get out in the sun. It was great. I went out with Bert. We were playing fetch. It was a lot of fun, but I did have other stuff to do that day as well, which is why I couldn't do the show. But I appreciate you powering through with Jeff as your co-host. Jeff did a great job, I'm sure. So, right.
Yeah, I never have to keep Jeff on the rails and
if you
walk him off the ledge of an insane take.
Yeah,
Jeff
is a pro's pro.
How would Jeff react if you just interrupted him and were like, "Hey, let's get it on the rails"? Like if you're like, Jeff, let's get it on the rails.
You should try that. That would work for you, maybe.
Jeff would get very upset. Jeff would be like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, you should do that. Next time, like next year when you end up on a rink wide or something. Just like when he's making a very serious point and bringing up bunch of like relevant statistics, like the stats that only Jeff is able to dig up, just like exactly the way you mentioned it there. Just straight interrupt. Let's get back on.
All right, Jeff, back on the rails, please. Let's go. Let's talk about Sweet Wheels Niels Amon. Okay, let's close it out. Let's close it out there. Hope to see everybody at the watch party tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Free event. Make sure you come out. Greta Bar, YVR. We will close it out there for my co-host Harman Dial and our technical producer Jacob Azar. My name is Dave Virgilli. Thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.